Good evening and welcome to the Village Board of Trustees meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, October 13. If you are watching live on Monday, October 13, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. As always, you can watch us live on Cablevision or Verizon Cable TV and on PCTV76.org. And within a couple of days, you can pick up an on-demand webcast of our meeting again at PCTV76.org. Our next regular meeting is in 2 weeks, Monday, October 27 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. We have a bunch of activities tonight, including a presentation of the audit report and a number of announcements. But in deference to the many people who are here on behalf of our police department, we have two appointments tonight for the Village of Pleasantville Police Department. It's a happy occasion for that, and so we will do that first and move to our audit report thereafter, unless there's an overwhelming desire to hear the audit report.
Come on, be honest.
So I invite Chief Richard Love, Chief of the Pleasantville Police Department, to set the stage for the appointments we're about to make.
Good evening. Mayor Scher, Village Trustees, Administrator Dwyer, families and friends of the Pleasantville Police Department. I stand before you here tonight extremely proud and honored. 1, to recommend a promotion of an existing member of our department to the rank of sergeant. And 2, to recommend a new hire police officer for the Village of Pleasantville. First, let me start by emphasizing that Pleasantville is an outstanding community with highly dedicated citizens, community leaders, and employees. That being said, being voted the 4th safest community in New York State is a great honor, but it does not exempt us from criminal activity or ongoing social issues that have been affecting all communities across this nation. Reported increases of alcohol and drug-related issues have been magnified recently, and the ongoing media coverage has broadened the fear of disorder. Social media has flooded our citizens with all types of reports, some which are true and others are not. The phenomenon of social phone tag can be very detrimental to the community. Sometimes the simple knowledge of another's alleged victimization has as much impact on the levels of fear as actually being a victim. Please, I urge everyone to take this into consideration when hearsay is in the wind. Have the confidence that if something is happening in our community that is of public concern, the members of this board will make sure that the proper and accurate information is distributed promptly. We as a community have banded together to create a wonderful organization called Pleasantville Strong, which stands for Safe Teens, Real Opportunities, and New Goals. It is designed to combat and educate people in this community, not just teens, on the dangers of drugs and alcohol. After numerous meetings and conversations with a variety of community members, I am of the understanding that most people believe the police know most of what's going on in the community. That simple fact is that we can't know everything without your help. We need the cooperation of all people in this community to bring unusual, disruptive, and potential criminal behavior to our attention. Bad things usually don't occur in front of a uniformed officer. But by joining together and working as a team to combat these issues, we will be more effective and help to make Pleasantville the safest and most desirable village possible. Police officers are responsible for protecting and serving the public and are trusted in substantial authority to carry out those responsibilities. The public has the right to expect that such authority is given only to those individuals who have demonstrated by their conduct that they will use the authority given to them in the best public interest. I believe the members of this department exemplify this and are committed to providing the most effective community-based policing services to the residents of Pleasantville. To the members of this department, wisdom is knowing the right path to take. Integrity is taking it. May you continue to choose the path that brings honor to your badge, to our department, to your family, and to this noble profession of law enforcement. Now to what we've been waiting for all this evening. Without further ado, I would like to recommend to the village board that Jason Hankin be promoted to sergeant within our department. Jason has been with us as a patrolman for 17 years. He has done a remarkable job during his entire career here and is one of the most dedicated, honest, and compassionate officers I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I now invite Jason up to follow in his grandfather, Mr. Robert Barr's footsteps, and be sworn as a sergeant in the Village of Pleasantville Police Department. Mr. Robert Barr, who is a sergeant in our department, is here with us tonight. Jason, would you please come up? Amy?
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jason Henkin, will support the Constitution of the United States
Will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Police Sergeant
the duties of Police Sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
All right, Jason, good job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sergeant Hankton. Next, we have a new hire for the Village of Pleasantville. I'd like to recommend to the Village Board that James Charletti be sworn into the position of probationary police officer with the Village of Pleasantville. I have known James for most of his life and believe he's a perfect fit for this department. He has grown up within the department family, mostly because of his father, Tony Charletti, who was an active member of this department and was the police chief for 19 years. I now invite James up to follow and be sworn in to this department. Tony? Chief, sorry.
A happy occasion, to say the least, to continue this great tradition of the Charletti family. If you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, James Charletti,
I, James Charlotte,
will support the Constitution of the United States,
support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
in the Village of Pleasantville according to the best of my ability.
in the Village of Pleasantville according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Another Charletti I miss. Congratulations. We might have to drag him in just to, give him a taste.
Thank you very much.
Chief, good job, thank you.
Well done, James. Looking forward to seeing you around. Good luck. Good job. Good job, Chief. Thank you.
A great day. I thank you very much, Chief, for your remarks, and I welcome Sergeant Henkin and Patrolman Charletti to the Village of Pleasantville. Great to see, in your case, a face that's never left, and in your case, a face that didn't leave but went on sabbatical. So, a happy occasion, and happy to see two families with such deep roots in this village continuing to rise to this level and to serve the people of the village. So thank you all. A happy occasion, and congratulations to all members of the police department. I think it's a great, great day of progress for all of us. So you're all welcome to stay for the audit report, which I'm sure you will find
Mayor, can I-
compellingly interesting.
Can I suggest that we move the resolutions for appointments, so we
Okay,
can
good
just
idea.
get those on the record? And
We'll take those two resolutions out of the regular order. Number 149, Colleen.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Jason Henkin to the position of Police Sergeant effective October 13, 2014, at a salary of $115,070 as per the rules and regulations of the Westchester County Office of Human Resources. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 52 weeks to a maximum of 78 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Sergeant. Number 150, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints James Charletti to the position of police officer effective October 13, 2014, at a salary of $59,250. As per the rules and regulations of Westchester County Office of Human Resources, said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 52 weeks to a maximum of 78 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Welcome.
It's official.
Thank you all.
Beers are on you guys, I guess, right?
All right, feel free to depart as we move on to the less compelling aspects
you.
of
All
our
right.
evening. And congratulations to both families.
No, that's always one of them. I like to do this job.
Yeah.
It does age one because James was in my kids' years.
Yeah, it's
I always
great
always used to amuse me to see.
to see them cycle back as
Yeah,
adults.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
All right, we'll continue. Are we still on, Shane? Okay, great. We'll continue backing up a little bit to the regular sequence of our agenda. Had a couple of announcements to make. One is, as I think a lot of you know, but it's always worth reminding, the annual Ragamuffin Parade is coming up on Saturday, October 25th. And that is preceded on Saturday, October 25th, by what has become a great village tradition, the Tina Shana Gambino Memorial Foundation 5K Run Walk. And I encourage everybody to get themselves to www.tinagambino.org, where you can read more about the fun run, the run walk, and also register in advance. You are welcome to run or to walk or to simply make a contribution. So again, both of those events are going on Saturday the 25th. On that occasion, the farm market parking will be limited, obviously, because a part of Memorial Plaza is used for the festivities that follow the Ragamuffin Parade. A couple of other things going on. The Rotary Club has their annual pancake breakfast next week, which is Saturday the 18th at the Pleasantville Middle School cafeteria. So we encourage anybody who is interested to support that activity. The Rotary Club has been very generous to the village and many of its allied organizations, and it's one of the ways in which they raise some money. So again, we encourage you, that's next Saturday the 18th, to participate in that. On a very sad note, many of you know, but perhaps not all, that this past week, Brian Gallick, a longtime resident of the village of Pleasantville, passed away. Brian had been an anchor in this village in many, many ways, a longtime contributor to lots of activities in the village, and including the Pleasantville Music Festival and the Chamber of Commerce. He and his wife Janice had started the Care Circle, which is a web system to provide support for families or individuals who are ill or in need, and that has served many, many, many people very well. We are very, very much saddened by the loss of Brian and send our condolences to the Gallick family. Anybody else have anything they wanted to?
Yeah, we're going to be starting our coat drive for the Military Order of the Purple Heart. We will have a large box down in the lobby here at Wheeler Avenue, and we'll be collecting winter coats. That's both for men and for women through December 31st, so we ask everyone to do that. I also thought I would mention our Pleasantville Strong. We have our meeting this Wednesday. Anyone is welcome to join us at our meeting. It's held at Holy Innocents at 8 o'clock. And we have some exciting things coming up with Pleasantville Strong. The first is we're going to partner with Jacob Burns to show a film that talks about alcohol and drug abuse with a panel discussion. It looks like that will be November 2nd, and there will be more details to follow. In addition, starting in January, on the first Tuesday of the month, going forward, the library will be hosting events as well, and we'll have that. We're going to have discussions about various drugs, tips for parents. So we encourage everyone to be on the lookout for those details and to join us. And go to our Facebook page, Pleasantville Strong, to take the survey if you have not already done so.
Thank you, that's great. Lastly, the Pleasantville Recycles Committee has been running their annual Halloween costume swap, which is a great arrangement where you can bring gently used clean Halloween costumes and leave them for someone else and go home with something new for you or your kids to wear. They've been doing that the last 2 Saturdays at the gazebo on Saturday during the farm market from 8:30 to 1:30 p.m. and we'll be doing it again this coming Saturday, the 18th. So take advantage of that. Any costumes that are donated and not picked up by someone else are given to Blythedale, which is a children's hospital, and also a great way that we can support lots of things. So thanks to all of you who participated in that, and thanks to the Recycling Committee who do such great work in doing all of that. With that, our next...
I have one additional thing. I just wanted to mention, because people might have seen it, the parking lot for the rec center has been reconfigured, and I think it's just about finished. So people will see, if you had visited it, our parking lot at the rec center there on Marble Avenue, it was very difficult to pull in and pull out and turn around. And what we've done is expanded the lot, and we have a one-way in and a one-way out, which will make the flow of traffic much better. A couple of people asked me what was happening to the baseball, to the, what's it
Batting
called?
cages.
The batting cages. They're being moved and will be reconstructed again in the spring, so not to fear.
That's good news, solving what had been a
Oh,
bit
yeah.
of a
Yeah.
traffic problem. So,
Yeah.
all right. Tonight we have Rob Danielle here from our audit firm of O'Connor Davies. Is it still O'Connor Davies, or do I have to mention the many other things you are? So, O'Connor Davies has provided, as they have many years running, the audit for the Village of Pleasantville. Our fiscal year runs from June through May, and so this audit is for the year ended May 31, 2014. The full audit report we have in PDF form, and if it is not already posted, we will post it on the website shortly. Can we get that up on the web, Patty?
Yes.
The full audit report, so that's pleasantville-ny.gov. If you'd like to dig into the details, welcome to do so. Welcome, Rob. Thank you for coming.
All right, good evening. My name is Rob Danielle. I'm from O'Connor Davies, and I'm here to present the audit results for the Village of Pleasantville for the fiscal year ended May 31st, 2014. I put together a PowerPoint, but before I begin, I just wanted to thank Patty, Mary, Noreen, and the entire staff for really being audit ready and timely, consistent with what we agreed to at the during our planning stage back in May and June of this year. Like I said, I put together a PowerPoint. There's a lot of information in here. I've included some exhibits for informational purposes. But if you turn to page 2 of the PowerPoint, I will briefly discuss what our responsibilities are as external auditors, what the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance. I will discuss the various funds that the village operates, an overview of the audit results, specifically the opinion, and some financial statement highlights. Will go through the general fund and some of the other funds. If you turn to page 2 very quickly, our responsibility is to form and express an opinion about whether the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in conformity to what we call accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. We plan and perform the audit in accordance with those standards to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. We consider internal controls for the purpose of determining our audit plan, but we don't express an opinion on your internal controls. And we're required to accumulate misstatements that are identified during the audit and communicate those material corrected and uncorrected misstatements to management. What does that mean? If there are journal entries that we propose that are material, we are required to now attach them to your management letter. And uncorrected misstatements, if there are journal entries that we pass on, that management agrees that if we don't make them, they're not materially misleading, then we have to attach those as well. There were no uncorrected misstatements. So anything we found, which was, I believe, 1 or 2 journal entries, were proposed and recorded by management. Page 4, again, included in the financial statement is some supplemental information, such as the MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis. Again, that is written by management. It's not an audited document. It's included in your report. We review the MD&A to make sure that the disclosures are consistent to what we're reporting on in the financial statements. And then the last bullet there, a byproduct of the audit process is our report on internal control matters, often referred to as our management letter, and we're required to communicate any significant matters that, in our opinion, relate to the responsibilities of those charged with governance that are considered material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Again, we did have a few comments, but none rose to that level of a material weakness or a significant deficiency. Page 5, just quickly, management's responsibility is to select and use the appropriate accounting policies and fairly present the financial statements in accordance to GAAP, to generally accepted accounting principles. Because we assist management in preparing the financial statements, we make sure that the policies and the note disclosures are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And the responsibility of management and those charged with governance is really to set the tone at the top and to design policies and internal controls to prevent and detect fraud. Page 6, as most of you are aware, the accounts of the village are organized and operated on the basis of funds. As you see there, the village operates a general fund, a water fund, a debt service fund, a capital projects fund, and a pool fund. Those are considered major funds of the village. There are also non-major funds, the refuse fund and the special purpose fund, as well as an agency fund, which is a holding account or a fund really that's money's held up on behalf of others. Page 7 is the overview of the audit reports. As auditors, our main function is to form an opinion on the financial statements. Regarding the Village of Pleasantville, we have issued what is called an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of opinion that any entity can receive, and it basically states that your financial statements present fairly the financial position of the village at May 31st, 2014, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. It indicates that you've received a clean opinion. Pages 8, 9, and 10 are a summary of your general fund. For those of you that want to follow in the financial statement, the general fund is found on page 48 and 49. Again, the PowerPoint has a summary. The details are on page 48 and 49. As you can see, this is a general fund revenue and expenditure summary. There are 4 columns. You have your original budget, your final budget, your actual results for the year, and then a comparison between your actual results compared to your final budget. The original budget is what the Board of Trustees approved back in the spring of 2013. And as you can see, your total revenues amounted to $12.8 million, consisting, and I'll give you some of the large categories of your real property taxes, which comprise 75% of the general fund budget, or $9.6 million. There are what we call non-property taxes, which are your sales tax, which is amounted to about $1.1 million, approximately 9% of your budget. And then there's some departmental income, some day camp fees, senior programs, parking permits. That amounted to a little over $1 million, or 8% of your budget. There are also interest earnings, state aid, your mortgage tax, and some fines and forfeited bail from the courts. So your total revenues amounted to $12.8 million. Your total expenses amounted to a little over $12 million, which created an excess of revenue over expenses of $792,000 before we factor in really transfers to other funds. As you can see there, the transfers out were $1.4 million, and your total transfers out and transfers in amounted to another bracketed $1.2 million. So the important line there is that net change in fund balance, that bracketed $500,000. That's what the village used from its own funds to balance the budget. So in a perfect world, if the results went according to this plan, you would have been utilizing $500,000 of your own funds to get through the year. The middle column, the final budget, during the course of the year, the board passed resolutions to modify the budget. As you can see, the revenue side was modified slightly, about $190,000. The expense side was modified about $400,000. Again, the important number in there is that net change in fund balance. The amount that the village was going to utilize to balance this budget went up to $837,000. We get to the third column, your actual results for the year. As you can see, your total revenues came in at $13.2 million compared to your final budget of $13 million. You showed a favorable variance on the revenue side of the budget of approximately $261,000, roughly 2% of your budget. And again, those were in areas such as sales tax, where you showed a $82,000 favorable variance compared to your budget. Other areas include your day camp fees, your senior programs, your parking permits, which came in $77,000 better than budget, as well as some fines and forfeited bail from the courts, which came in about $75,000 better than budget. On the expense side of the budget, your expenses amounted to just under $12 million as compared to your final budget of $12.4 million. Again, a positive or favorable variance of $442,000, roughly 3.5% of your budget. Other financing sources and uses, the village did realize some monies from the sale of property. I believe it was the Iron Horse Grill property that was sold, as well as additional transfers in and out. So again, the important thing to note there is that net change in fund balance, that $548,000. That's what the general fund earned for the 2014 fiscal year. When you take that and add it to your opening fund balance of $3.1 million, you end the year at $3.6 million, which we'll discuss in a minute. There's 2 points that I want to make. First of all, again, that net change in fund balance. Again, from an original budget standpoint, you anticipated utilizing $500,000 of your own funds to balance the budget. That was bumped up to $837,000 in your final budget. But when you closed the year, you ended up with a positive or earnings of $548,000. So really that swing where you anticipated using $837,000 of your funds to where you generated $548,000 in income translated to a favorable variance of $1.3 million compared to your budget.
Just to be clear, that includes the sale of real estate.
Correct. That was
Right.
my next point.
Yeah.
That was, again, you did have a profit for the year, but you have to factor in that sale of real property, which we call a one-time revenue. So actually, if you back that transaction out, you're roughly about $120,000 in the hole. So just something to think about. If you turn to the next page, page 9, or page 47 of the financial statement is a snapshot of your balance sheet. You look at the middle of the page, again, that $3.6 million at the bottom is fund balance. We'll discuss that in a minute. But if you look at the middle of the page, you'll see that your assets are $4.6 million. Your assets are up about $600,000 compared to the prior year. As you can see, it's mostly in the area of your cash and equivalents, which are up about $700,000, and your receivables are down approximately $160,000. On the liability side of the equation, your liabilities are consistent with the prior year. And the balancing equation there is your fund balance, your $3.6 million, which is broken down into what I'll call 4 different buckets. You have non-spendable fund balance, which is the small $10,000. That really is the number of your prepaid expenditures that sits on your balance sheet. What that represents is that cash is going out the door, the expense has not been recognized, so next year when the expense is recognized, it would come from that fund balance category. It would have no effect on your unassigned fund balance. The $157,000 of restricted fund balance, several years back, the village put $150,000 to be used for future capital projects, and every year it has been earning interest and accumulating until some point that the village decides to utilize those funds. The assigned fund balance of $150,000 is what the village used to balance the current budget that you're in, the 2015 budget, from utilizing its own funds and thus providing a form of property tax relief. And your unassigned is the $3.3 million. which is free and clear. We like to take the $3.3 million and compare it to your 2015 adopted budget of approximately $13.8 million, and that roughly translates to about 24%, which again is a little bit on the high side, which is good, but it results from that sale of property that is a one-time thing.
You say on the high side relative to our peers? I mean, among other things,
yes.
we're under the bond rating agencies are
They look for that, so that's fair.
are all hot for us carrying, as much possible money as we could hack away.
Correct. I mean, we've
Yeah.
noticed that the average is roughly around 15% to 18%. So,
Right.
again, if you factor out that sale of property, you're comparable to the prior year, which I believe was about 18%.
And in a healthy position.
Correct. Page 10 is just the fund balance categories. We really just went through the general fund. I put this in here for informational purposes. Again, page 11, I just want to walk through some of the other funds that we consider major funds. The water fund, for those of you that want to follow in the financial statements, it's on page 57 and 58. Again, the water fund, if you compare page 57 and 58 shows a comparison between 2014 and 2013. As you can see that the water fund's departmental income, or its water billings, generated about $360,000 more in 2014 than the previous year, which resulted in a net change or surplus for the year of $360,000. So the water fund is also in a good position with the fund balance of $773,000. The village also operates a debt service fund. Debt service fund showed a small loss of $65,000, although it anticipated utilizing $75,000 of its funds. So it did earn some interest and some premiums that offset that utilization of $75,000. The village in 2014 did refund certain bonds and got favorable interest rates from 2 to 2.75%, and they were able to reduce their total debt service by about $84,000 over a period of 9 years. Another major fund is your capital projects fund. That is found on page 65 and 66 if you're following in the financial statements. In 2014, you did expend about $1.5 million for various projects. The village also did issue a short-term bond anticipation note with, again, very favorable interest rates. I believe the interest rate on that note was 1%. Again, that is a short-term note that you can roll forward and renew over a 5-year period. On page 67 of the financial statements, you'll see there, these are the capital projects that the village has ongoing. There's approximately 15 or so projects that are ongoing. Page 67 describes each project, the authorization, what you've expended to date, and all of its revenue sources, as well as what's remaining in fund balance. And important thing to note there is although your fund balance in the capital projects fund shows a negative almost $499,000, it is funded, if you will, by this bond anticipation notes. A note for accounting purposes, when you issue the short-term financing, it hangs on your balance sheet. It's not treated as a bond where you would record it as revenue. However, as you pay down this bond, it is reflected as revenue. Or at some point, you may want to convert the bond into bonding. Then at that point, it'll be recognized as revenue. So although it does show a deficit in the fund, it's covered with the short-term financing. The pool fund. Pool fund reflected a small loss of $9,000 in the current year. The revenues were consistent with the prior year in the pool fund. However, the expenses were about $56,000 higher. That was due to some increase in some part-time staff, some more safety instructors that were hired, as well as the addition of a pool director, in addition to some above and beyond repairs and maintenance. The only reason why I call your attention to the pool fund is that over the past 3 years, it's been operating at a loss, and its fund balance is down to $7,400. So if everything remains relative, we could see the pool fund go into a deficit position. Again, the pool fund does have some bonds that are outstanding that right now are subsidized by the general fund. So Just another area to bring to your attention. And then lastly is the refuse fund. Again, the refuse fund is consistent with the prior year, about $55,000 or so of earnings, which bring its fund balance to $260,000. I guess I just want to point out, for those of you that have a financial statement, if you turn to page 37 of the notes to the financial statement, you will see the village's long-term liabilities. As we mentioned before the meeting, the village does have bonds payable to maturity of $15.3 million. Those are payable through the year 2033, as well as some compensated absences, some liabilities for unpaid sick and vacation time, a little over $1 million. And then the other non-cash item is that OPEB that we discussed previously of $5 million. If you turn to page 38, you will see the bonds payable. Those are listed by year of issue. As you can see, they range from 2005 to 2014. But more importantly, right in the middle of the page, the payments to maturity. We're required to report the bonds payable to maturity over the next 5 years and then in increments of 5 years. And as you can see, your total debt service requirements are roughly about $2.3, $2.4 million over the next couple of years. And again, that's funded through your 4 funds. Basically, your general fund accounts for approximately $1.3 million of the $2.3 million. When you compare that to your general fund budget of $13.8 million, it's roughly 9 or 10% of your general fund budget is for debt service costs. On the other hand, on the water fund, your debt service obligations are about $960,000 on a budget of just under $3.8 million, roughly 25% of your budget. So 1/4 of your budget for the water fund goes to pay down debt service. Refuse funds has a small amount, $20,000 on a $1 million budget, roughly 2%. And then again, your pool fund has about $71,000 of debt service requirements on a budget of $285,000, roughly another 25%. So that's really the numbers part. Like I said, we did issue a management letter or our report on internal controls. There were more of comments or observations about the internal control. Nothing rose to a level of material weakness or a significant deficiency. And I just want to, just in closing, the village is financially sound. They're prepared to meet future challenges. There's effective internal controls in the business office, as well as what I would say a prudent budget process, which yields a spending plan that has remained within the 2% tax cap. I do caution the village on certain items, such as the one-time revenues and the use of fund balance when you're developing future budgets. And again, although the village depends on its real property taxes, which represent 3/4 of its revenue, or 75%, the village has been able to weather the current economic crisis with minimal impact on its services, and again, it still remained within the 2% tax cap. We also audit the Justice Court, which I believe you have a report as well. It's pretty consistent from year to year. No fine. There's some comments that we observe, but nothing significant. And we also audit the Pleasantville TV, which is included in your reporting packet as part of the village. It's a component unit of the village.
I have a question.
Yes.
And it's this perennial accounting, and it's probably just accounting, so forgive me for minutia if that's what this ends up being. But we started off budgeting using $500,000 of fund balance to get the 2014 budget adopted.
Right.
At some point through the year, we not only felt we're going to need to spend $500,000, but we're going to need another $337,000 to get on up to $837,000. In reality, we only used just $100 and some thousand, right? That was 830. Well, we showed that we had a net increase to fund balance of 548. We didn't use any fund balance. We actually added to fund balance of $550,000.
Right, you're looking at the actual column.
I'm looking at the actual. I guess my question is, from my perspective, when did we realize that we were not going to need $500,000 or $837,000 of fund balance through the year? When did we realize that we were actually not using much at all? Because I will say, from my perspective, I don't have a good feel. Hadn't had a good feel. I thought we were using all that and then some. And so, when did this change, and how can we better report that to the board, so that we know going into March and April when we're doing, because this is a big part of our budget discussion, how much fund balance we were using, and then you're going to need to use it again to get through 2015. How can we better communicate where we are throughout the year, so that I'm not sitting here in an audit or, earlier, looking at not having used $837,000 of fund balance, basing a budget for 2015 on that, but indeed, we added to fund balance of, and admittedly, $672,000 was the sale of the Iron Horse, so
Right.
take that out of there, and we used $130,000 or something like that of fund balance, but nowhere near what the final budget number indicated we were going to use.
What you're asking for is difficult to time. It's a timing issue. I mean, at the beginning of the fiscal year, 2013-14, we needed to have a $500,000 fund balance appropriation.
Agreed.
To
Understood
balance
that.
the budget. And as the year went on, I think a lot of transfers were requested from fund balance to pay certiorari. So
Certainly,
raised
we
the
approved a
budget.
lot of transfers in
Yeah.
our.
I mean, things happen during the year.
Yep.
Right, and so we're required to do that,
Yep.
to expend money. We
Right.
don't modify the budget to reflect, better than anticipated sales tax revenue or mortgage
Sale of
recording
the Iron
taxes.
Horse came, out of the blue,
Right.
which was a pretty interesting
Yeah.
event. But there were other events that come after even the close of the fiscal year. Some of our quarterly sales tax gets thrown back.
And how much was that? How much better sales
I think
tax do we
a
end
couple
up with?
$100,000, I think you were talking about.
It was closer to 100,
Oh,
$90,000 or
$100,000,
$100,000.
Considerable amount of permit activity in the building department. We've always been very conservative with our.
No,
budget.
and I agree.
You're talking about communicating.
I'm just, I get that, and I know that there's some unknowables that can go either way, honestly, and we have to be conservative about that. But when I see an $837,000 swing go from $837,000 to, let's take the Iron Horse out of it because it's a one-time, so $130,000, so a $600 and some $1,000 swing, and we're talking about basis points in terms of increasing taxes. Having known this number better, and maybe it's not knowable, but that difference better earlier would be very helpful to us in terms of managing under a 2% guideline for tax increases. Because we may not have gone there in March had we known that the fund balance was indeed not down $837,000, but actually down only actually up, as it turns out to be. But
Well, we certainly knew at the time of the budget that the Iron Horse money was
We
going
did know
to
that.
swing that in a big way.
we did know
The
that.
other piece of it is, for the benefit of all those watching, we get detailed quarterly reports, line-by-line quarterly reports on both revenues and expenses, and those include, for example, comparison to the year previous and the percentage of the budget expended. Some of those lines, like straight salary lines, are at 50% at half the year. Others of those budget lines are episodic. The expenses come at specific points, not necessarily evenly through the year, and so you can look at a budget that has a a big unexpended balance that actually is likely to turn into a deficit. So all of those things, as you well know, make it hard to make a convincing decision about how you're going to end up at the end of the year. So, I mean, my sense of it is, as you can see from the numbers, that our expenses ended up lower than anticipated. Our revenues ended up better than anticipated. Back out the one-off from sale of real property. Absent the sale of the Iron Horse, we'd be saying, glad it worked out very noticeably better than we thought. I'm not sure we would say that it worked out in a manner that if we could have looked into the future, we would have changed the budget. I think for the benefit of the community as a whole, it makes sense for us to be conservative, and when we find our conservatism has produced a surplus, to hand that back into the budget in the following year when we're giving back money we know we have, as opposed to risking money that we may or may not. So,
No,
Yeah.
and I'm not suggesting that, but more information is better than less. And to fly, and if it's $90,000 or $100,000 or even $150,000, you know, I don't mean to be throwing around bigger numbers, but that's fine. But it seems to me that by the time we're at March, in really trying to, and maybe it's not possible, but if it is possible, I'd like to challenge you guys to figure out how we can get a better insight as to a gulf between, you know, $837,000 use of fund balance and $548,000 contribution to fund balance.
So,
I,
but
for one,
again,
would be, I would
I
find
agree.
that very helpful.
I agree with the communication. I mean, it'd be nice to know which way we were trending, but we still have a couple of months left. So, you know, I don't think we can, you know, make big changes on predicting the next year's budget because we still have a few months left, you know, through our
But the
year.
budgets that we get, quite honestly, Colleen, reflect the final budget. I mean, more than anything else. So,
But I mean, with all due respect, Jonathan, we're getting detailed quarterly reports that show us where we're trending. The piece we don't know is what's going to happen in the last quarter.
well, we do and we don't, Peter. I mean, that's not entirely accurate to say that.
Why do you say?
Because we get numbers that you know, actually result in the final budget line. Those are the numbers we're kind of seeing.
We
Every
get a
quarter.
we get a quarterly, you know,
Absolutely, but it's been
80-page
adjusted.
document.
It's adjusted in
Right,
the
but
final
it sh-
final budget.
It shows the original, the adjusted,
Correct.
and the year to date, so we can see
Yeah.
where we stand. And the
No
year to
doubt.
date,
And you know the year to date. You know the issues with the year to
Right,
date. It's
but-
not even close to being kind of accurate to what is.
right? But that's the problem you're trying to get at: how to get the year to date and whatever tea leaves we can read at a given moment to be a better view
fine.
into the final. No, I'm trying to make sure I understand you correctly.
I am just trying to say, if $500,000 is the swing factor every year, come March, that's as good as we can do, then fine, I accept that that's as good as we can do. I don't know that that is as good as we can do. And that's why I'm asking more. It just, to go from $837,000 in a final budget to $548,000 plus, just seems to me to be a big swing. Now, granted, $672,000 is a sale. We knew about that, but that still is, you know, that's still $700,000, $600,000. Once you back that out, the difference between actual and final, and I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can drive that to and maybe it's not. And I'm
You know,
just asking.
Yeah, I don't
Because you
know.
guys have been good at this, so.
We're looking at I'm looking at something that we'd given the board back in March when we were doing fund balance projections, just in anticipation of adopting this year's budget. And at that point, we
It was
thought
like 300.
we were looking at expenditures of about 13.7 million. We actually spent 13.2. So because we thought we were looking at 13.7, there's a $500,000 there we thought we were going to spend. So we could not have, you know, given you any better, you know, information at the time. And
Okay.
that probably came after the winter and some other things that we were seeing at the time. So when we did our best estimate of where we'd end up, we were projecting a lot higher on the expense side than actually occurred. So that's the difference. It really wasn't a revenue issue at the time. But Yeah, we work very hard to get that number, you know, as accurate as possible so we know what we're dealing with.
No, I do. I know you do. I just, it's,
But that's where it comes in. I'm looking at it now. Look, we anticipated ending the year spending 13.7 million. We actually spent 13.2. So that, if you go back to your, you know, when we give you those sheets on the fund balance projections just before you adopt the budget, you would see that there. And how we got to 13.7, that's based on what all the department heads were telling us at the time they expected, you know, to require to finish the year. So when I see numbers like that that even exceed our adopted budget, we you know, we all have to, you know, sit down. We have staff and we contract all of that. We try not to overspend the budget, and every year I think we're within 98%, you know, of our expenditure appropriations every year. We're pretty good about knowing what we need to spend. But last year we were heading in a different direction because of the winter and other obligations we had. But we actually came in a good place. So.
And also, if you look on page 48 and 49,
Yep.
you look at the expenses in 13, you had a favorable variance of about $240,000, and it almost doubled on the expense side in 2014. So it's another factor that's hard to predict there. You know, you had savings in the health insurance line, in the retirement. These bills are paid in March, you know, April.
Yeah. We had very bad estimates, too, come from the state, I think, notoriously for the last few years that we've, you know, we've anticipated different outcomes with some of the
Well-
expenses.
And
thank goodness they've been
timing on those
bad
is
in the
not
right
great.
direction. I mean,
Right.
so,
Well, and largely because, you know, Patty and Mary and Noreen have been conservative, as we have asked them to be, you know, trying to be responsible, trying to avoid increasing taxes any more than we have to, but we've been in a rather volatile environment, as everyone knows, and blessedly we have the happy news that things broke our way, and they fairly substantially this year, a little bit last year as well. So that puts us in a position going into the next fiscal year to potentially think a little bit differently. But you know, we certainly in the tenure both of us have been on the board,
yeah.
the expectations for the amount of fund balance we should carry has certainly changed from the rating agencies, and it has changed, I think, within all of our mindsets based on some of the things that have hit us in the last few years, especially you know, crazy weather and dramatically higher expenses in various places, and you know, circumstances that inevitably happen where you end up spending $400,000 and $500,000 and $600,000 on something that hadn't been predicted. So it's an imprecise game, but I think, you know, Patty and the finance department have done a great job in trying to manage that. So maybe
Too good a job.
We'll set- well-
I'm asking for better.
we'll send you. We're going to send you to Las Vegas. See how you can do.
We'll
Right?
take that
Are
criticism.
we allowed to send them to Las Vegas with the fund balance? What do you think?
No comment.
That's very
We'll
constructive.
get it. We won't get it. What do you call it? The
So, Rob,
opinion letter.
I don't know if you're in a position to comment on this, but you know, certainly our, you know, the latest reports from Albany are that the pension percentages are inching slightly down. Nothing
correct.
major, but it feels like enormously good news not to have a stratospheric increase. Is it your prediction? Are you in a position to guess whether that is likely to continue? That it feels like it's stabilized. Maybe we'll start to edge backwards.
It has stabilized, and you know, I can't predict that
Right.
it will go even lower, but I think it'll remain flat.
You're talking about the pension?
Yeah,
Right.
the retirement system.
Right.
Yeah, as long as the market's up 30% a year, it's going to be fine.
Well, after doing it's up 28.
Oh, boy.
I mean that's the only thing driving it at this point. We've had great markets the last 5 years.
Right.
Well, you know, the theory on the part of the state controller was to substantially increase the overall percentage that we all pay in order
Well, he's
to
accomplished that.
and in order to maintain that in good years and bad years with more
Correct.
stability.
Right.
Whether that actually turned out to be the case is rather unclear. I am happy to report to the community that we did not avail ourselves of the opportunity the state offered to, quote, amortize our pension contribution. In other words, to borrow money for current obligations and pay it back over time. You know, certainly there were some communities that had no choice but to do that, but It's a current year operating expense, and we paid it.
Correct.
So, any other questions?
Nice little financing charge in that gizmo.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
What is it, 8 or 9%?
It depends what program you have. It's 5% and some are 8%.
And repaid over how long?
I believe it's 10 years.
So that's a substantial hit.
Right, and I think once you get into that program, you can't get out.
Yeah. A little bit of a Hail Mary pass.
And
that
I
says-
think now there's a 12-year program which
Yeah,
requires a lot of scrutiny.
getting dangerously close to
And
what it
that's
really...
like 8 or 10.
just,
You can't get out.
exactly.
dangerously
Just
close
so
to
I'm
what's really
clear.
required, which is a 12-step
I'm
program.
financially stressed, so I'm going to borrow from the state who's going to, rake me over the coals on my
Right.
financing
And in
fee.
good times, you can't turn it.
And I can't get out. Nice.
So in sum, it's fair to take from what you have said that the Village of Pleasantville is in a very solid and stable condition, and to the extent that you all can see, our finance department is doing a good and responsible job.
Yes, absolutely.
Very good.
So, well, I thank you, sir, and I congratulate Patty and Mary and Noreen, Pam Hoffman, if she's watching in absentia, for the role she played leading into all of this. Certainly, I think all of us are unanimous in reporting to the community that our finance department runs a tight ship, and that, led by Patty, not only has produced positive financial results, but also great confidence in the numbers when we see them. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Mary,
Ladies.
any questions while Rob's here? Well, I also want to echo those comments. Thank you, Mayor and members of the board, for recognizing the talent we have here. Extraordinary talent, and I'm very grateful for the efforts that Mary and Noreen put into their work. So thank you both. Thank you for being here. Rob, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. On behalf of the village, truly.
I can report from conversations with colleagues in various other places around the state that there are plenty of places that don't have that level of confidence, and we are very, very, very fortunate to be in the circumstance we're in. So thank you very much. Okay, any communications from the public? Again, our call-in number is 769-1677. If not, we'll go to the balance of our resolutions. The first two have already been done, the appointment of the police sergeant and the police officer. We pick up with Steve at 151.
Resolved that pre-check register dated October 13th, 2014, covering electronic check registers 1690 through 1742, and pre-check numbers 078904 through 079019 have been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below. From the general fund, $135,729.94. From the water fund, $12,549.26. From the capital fund, $79,054.94. Refuse fund, $7,233.19. Trust and agency fund, $7,017.50, for a total of $241,584.83.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions about the check register?
It's a light 3 weeks.
Keep it that way, that's
Yeah.
good, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Colleen, 152.
Just kidding. Scrolling down. Checks. Bear with me, I'm sorry. 152, resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, September 22, 2014, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just looking over the minutes reminds me of a couple of things that are worth saying again, and one of them is certainly worth saying again is that longstanding village resident and longstanding village employee Roger Lemke was inducted into the 40th Senate District Veterans Hall of Fame. Well-deserved honor, and congratulations to Roger. Comments or corrections on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 153, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the amended snow and ice agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation.
There's a second.
Second.
Patty, you want to describe this?
Sure. This goes back to the winter of 2014, 14, where we actually expended a lot more money and resources maintaining state highways in the village. So our contract calls for an adjustment anytime we go over a certain minimum exceedance, and we will be getting an additional $19,728 from the state for that effort. It's good news. So what ends
Just
up,
that
when
fund
it does
balance.
come in, that, that goes
Wait,
into
where'd it go?
basically a refund to prior year's expenses.
And this is
It'll-
because we took care of this road, or these roads, the
We're
state
under
roads?
contract to maintain the state and the county roads. The county's contract basically is lump sum. It's, whether it snows or not, we get a fixed amount. The state is variable based on the effort. So we do a little better on that contract.
Well, good news, certainly.
Good
All in
news.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 154, Steve.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville has received a copy of the Justice Court audit for fiscal year ending May 31st, 2014, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village clerk to file same with the Office Court Administration pursuant to Section 2019-A of the Uniform Justice Court Act.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, can we also put that PDF up on the web?
Yes.
So we have the,
Sure.
all
Do
of the
that too.
relevant pieces of the audit up on our website at pleasantville-ny.gov. Any comments or questions about the Justice Court audit?
I have one quick thing. So this is done on a cash basis? This,
Yes, yeah, it's interesting. They have a different accounting basis.
why is, not that we want to bore everybody with this, but I'm just curious why our village statements are done on this sort of like quasi-accrual thing and the Justice Court is done in cash?
GASB allows it, and that's how they
Fair
just how
enough.
they record it. Yeah, we're on modified accrual.
It's like a parent's
Yeah.
favorite thing, because.
Because, yeah, all right.
I
Because I
also-
said so.
It's just the
Your
legal,
job.
it's the
I'm
legal
sure
requirement.
I'm grasping at straws to find some logic to it, but
It's the legal requirement. It's bizarre.
it is likely that receipt of fines and forfeitures and the like
bail
is a
and all
cash
that is-
business.
Yeah, it's big cash business.
Very
Like
difficult.
taxes are in cash.
I mean, for example, you receive bail and you have no way to predict
It's
whether it's
our
likely
other
to be forfeited or not,
transactions.
all that kind of stuff, so.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah. We may be giving the state more credit than they deserve, but we're trying. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number 155. Collins.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts a donation in the amount of $25 from Ms. Pinchman towards senior center programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Another in a continuing series of donations to our senior center, for which we are much appreciative. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 156.
Whereas the village elections are held on the third Tuesday of March, as per New York State election law, whereas the third Tuesday of March 2015 falls out on the St. Patrick's Day holiday, Tuesday, March 17th, 2015, and whereas the New York State Board of Elections requires the village holding elections change the date of the village election to Wednesday, March 18, 2015, per election law 15-104. So now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville will hold the 2015 village elections on Wednesday that is, March 18, 2015, to comply with New York State election law number 15-104, and further resolved that the polling location for the village election will be here at Village Hall, second floor 80 Wheeler Avenue, and that the polls shall be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Which is a lot of verbiage suggesting the state thinks it's a bad idea to vote on St. Patrick's
I don't know,
Day.
if you set up polling in a bar, you could set polling up in a bar across the street or something. and then-
It's a good
Very
opportunity
interesting
to remind the community that the election that will be taking place in March of 2015 will have 3 seats up. The seat currently held by me as mayor, by Colleen as trustee, and by Jonathan as trustee. Those 3 seats up for election in March 2015. Perhaps, Judy, we could put up on the web a page or a note that has the links to the relevant Board of Election sites of the county and the state, so people who might be interested in running
I think it's up there on.
already up there. So whatever, Jill, check it out. So just to summarize that again, the village election will take place Wednesday, March 18, 2015. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
And it'll be here,
Right.
7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Corned beef and cabbage leftover corned beef and cabbage served to the
Lights
election
will be
inspectors, right. 157, Steve.
Whereas as part of the annual organizational meeting held on April 7th, 2014, the Board of Trustees designated the Journal News as their official newspaper. And whereas the Board of Trustees may designate more than one official newspaper for the village, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby designates the Examiner as an official newspaper along with the Journal News for the village's legal noticing requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
This one's for you, Janine.
Yes.
You gotta put an article on it.
Thank you to Janine
Examiner
Bowen.
has arrived.
From the Examiner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Nice to think that local newspapers have muscled their way into the
Agreed.
media world.
Back into the meeting.
158.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Kristen Sarace, did I say that correctly?
Serace.
Sarace, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, Kristen. To the position of Office Assistant Automated Systems effective October 13, 2014, at a salary of $46,319 as per the rules and regulations of the Westchester County Department of Human Resources. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, you want to just describe?
Oh, sure.
Kristen has been
Yes,
here
yes.
for a while
Well,
for
I'm-
us.
I'm delighted to recommend to the board that Kristen be appointed to this position. She has been with our court office for over 7 years as a part-time employee. We had to wait for the right opportunity to be able to get her off of a civil service list. She just was canvassed at a score of 95 off of this list. And we're delighted to be able to have her now join us as a full-time employee on a probationary basis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Welcome, Kristen. That is, welcome more of your time.
Yeah.
Right.
159, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to notify Westchester County Department of Human Resources that the village of Pleasantville would like to participate in the police sergeant's promotional examination.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 160, Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendment: to increase street resurfacing project by Con Edison, to reduce the miscellaneous revenue budget code, do I have to read the budget code?
No.
No, that's
6,000 from miscellaneous revenue over to street resurfacing, a total amount of $6,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
This reflects a contribution by Con Ed.
Yes, Con Ed paid a proportionate share of the work on Church Street because they had done gas main repair there.
So this is
they
to
covered-
pay for what they dug up after we had fixed it? Is that-
Yes, it's to
Yeah.
assist for the resurfacing, yeah.
Does that cover our cost? I mean, does that?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot on that road, but this covers at least that
And
portion of the road.
it's restored back to the way it was when we were done with it? Or, I mean,
No,
sometimes
we
their patch
totally
jobs are a little bit...
Right, they paid toward the
Some-
total resurfacing effort. We resurfaced after they had.
Okay, and we're
Completed their main.
not out of pocket anything on
No,
that because
no,
they
no.
came and dug up our road.
That is correct. We coordinated this one. This one went well.
All right, did we vote on that, Judy?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. So that's the last of our resolutions for the evening. Is there any new business? Any comments from the public? There a motion to go into executive session on advice of counsel and proposed certiorari settlements?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll go into executive session. We thank you all for your attention. Congratulations to our new Sergeant Jason Henkin and to our new patrolman James Charletti. A happy evening in the village of Pleasantville. Thank you for watching. See you in 2 weeks. Good evening.
Good night.